A hunt is underway for thieves after priceless jewels were stolen from one of the world's most famous museums, the Louvre in Paris.
Well, it's the theft of the decade, targeting the Louvre and stealing the crown jewels related to Napoleon. It's the ultimate heist.
The Louvre heist that shocked the world just exposed something even bigger than stolen crown jewels. While investigators traced the thieves' network, they discovered connections to Egyptian artifacts that archaeologists had been finding in tombs. Artifacts that were supposed to be sitting in international museums. Egyptian excavations revealed golden sarcophagi, ancient burial masks, and ceremonial objects that match pieces museums claim to own. But here's the shocking part. The real artifacts were still buried in Egypt, proving that what millions of visitors had been admiring in world-famous museums were either fakes or stolen goods. This discovery is rewriting ancient Egyptian history. When 3 masked men broke into the Louvre with chainsaws and escaped in 7 minutes with Napoleon's crown jewels, investigators thought they were dealing with a simple art theft. They had no idea this heist would expose the biggest archaeological scandal in modern history. The thieves targeted the Apollo Gallery, home to France's most precious royal treasures. But as police traced the criminal network behind the heist, they discovered something that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. This wasn't just about stolen French jewels. It was connected to a massive international trafficking operation that had been looting Egyptian tombs for decades. The breakthrough came when investigators found that the same criminal networks involved in the Louvre heist had been trafficking Egyptian artifacts to museums worldwide. But here's where the story gets incredible. Egyptian archaeologists had been making discoveries that proved many of the Egyptian artifacts sitting in international museums were either stolen or fake. While the world focused on the missing Napoleon jewels, a much bigger story was emerging from the sands of Egypt. Archaeologists working near Luxor, Saqqara, and the Valley of the Kings had been finding artifacts that should have been impossible to discover because identical pieces were supposedly already in museum collections around the world. The investigation into the Louvre heist became the key that unlocked decades of archaeological fraud. Criminal networks hadn't just been stealing artifacts from Egypt. They had been systematically replacing real artifacts with fakes, leaving the originals buried while selling forgeries to unsuspecting museums. Egyptian archaeologists had been noticing something strange for years, but the Louvre heist investigation finally gave them the platform to speak out. Dr. Mustafa Waziri, Secretary General of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, revealed that excavation teams had been finding artifacts that matched pieces in international collections with suspicious documentation. The most shocking discovery came from the tomb of an unnamed Middle Kingdom official near the Temple of Hatshepsut. Inside, archaeologists found a golden burial mask that was virtually identical to one displayed in a major European museum. The museum piece had documentation claiming it was legally exported from Egypt in the 1970s. But carbon dating of materials found with the newly discovered mask proved both pieces came from the same tomb complex. This wasn't an isolated case. At Saqqara, the ancient burial ground near Cairo, teams uncovered elaborate sarcophagi decorated with specific hieroglyphic texts that matched pieces in museum collections worldwide. The problem was that these hieroglyphic sequences were unique to this specific burial site, meaning the museum pieces couldn't have come from the locations claimed in their documentation. The most damning evidence came from chemical analysis. Egyptian archaeologists found that artifacts discovered in legitimate excavations contained trace minerals and soil signatures specific to their burial locations. When they compared these signatures to returned artifacts that had been seized from trafficking networks, many pieces matched perfectly, proving they came from recently looted Egyptian sites, not from legal exports decades earlier. Advanced ground-penetrating radar revealed the scope of the looting. Archaeological sites across Egypt showed evidence of systematic excavation that didn't match any legal dig permits. These weren't random tomb robbers. This was organized, scientific looting designed to extract the highest value artifacts while leaving enough behind to make the sites appear untouched. The radar also revealed something even more disturbing. Many tombs showed evidence of selective looting, where thieves had removed specific artifacts while leaving others behind. This suggested the looters had advanced knowledge of what was valuable and where to find it, information that could only come from detailed archaeological surveys. The revelation that rocked the archaeological world came when Egyptian teams began systematically documenting their legitimate finds and comparing them to international museum databases. They discovered that hundreds of artifacts claimed by museums as legally acquired were still sitting in Egyptian tombs where they belonged. The most spectacular example involved a golden sarcophagus dating to Egypt's New Kingdom period. The Metropolitan Museum of Art had purchased this piece for millions, with documentation claiming it was exported from Egypt in 1971. But Egyptian archaeologists found the identical sarcophagus still in its original tomb, surrounded by artifacts that proved it had never been disturbed until their official excavation. Chemical analysis revealed that the museum piece was an incredibly sophisticated fake. Forgers had used ancient materials and techniques so advanced that even expert authentication had failed to detect the fraud. The real sarcophagus remained in Egypt, while museums worldwide had been displaying masterfully crafted replicas. This pattern repeated across dozens of high-profile museum acquisitions. Egyptian teams found original artifacts still in their archaeological context, while museums displayed pieces they believed were authentic. The forgers hadn't just been stealing artifacts. They had been creating replicas so perfect that they fooled the world's leading experts. The scale of the operation became clear when investigators traced the networks exposed by the Louvre heist. The same criminal organizations had been manufacturing fake artifacts for decades, using materials and techniques that made detection nearly impossible. They would create multiple copies of valuable pieces, selling them to different institutions while leaving the originals buried to avoid detection. Advanced spectroscopic analysis revealed the sophistication of these fakes. Forgers had used genuinely ancient materials, aging techniques that replicated thousands of years of deterioration, and even authentic ancient pigments and gold. Only the most advanced scientific analysis could distinguish these pieces from genuine artifacts. The forgery operation required extensive archaeological knowledge. Criminals needed detailed information about tomb layouts, artifact placement, and historical context to create convincing fakes. This suggested the involvement of trained archaeologists or access to detailed excavation records that should have been secure. The breakthrough in exposing this massive archaeological fraud came through cutting-edge technology that wasn't available when many museum acquisitions were made. Egyptian archaeologists began using advanced scanning techniques that could analyze artifacts at the molecular level, revealing information invisible to traditional authentication methods. X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy allowed teams to identify the exact mineral composition of artifacts and trace them to specific geographical locations. When applied to artifacts found in legitimate excavations, this technology created detailed fingerprints that could identify where each piece originated. Comparing these fingerprints to museum pieces revealed the shocking extent of trafficking and forgery. Ground-penetrating radar transformed how archaeologists could survey sites before excavation. This technology revealed the internal structure of tombs and burial complexes, allowing teams to document what should be found before any digging began. When they found tombs that had been selectively looted, the radar data proved which artifacts had been removed and which remained. 3D scanning technology allowed archaeologists to create precise digital models of artifacts and tomb spaces. These models could be compared to museum pieces to identify exact matches or reveal inconsistencies in provenance claims. The scanning also preserved detailed records of artifact placement and context that could expose forgeries years later. Isotope analysis provided the most damning evidence. This technique could determine not just where artifacts were made, but where they had been buried for centuries. Egyptian teams found that many artifacts in museum collections had isotope signatures proving they came from Egyptian soil, contradicting documentation claiming they had been in European collections for decades. DNA analysis of organic materials and artifacts revealed another layer of deception. Many museum pieces contain traces of modern bacteria and environmental pollutants that shouldn't exist in artifacts that have been properly preserved for decades. This suggested the pieces had been recently excavated and quickly processed for sale. Satellite imagery provided the final piece of the puzzle. Historical satellite data showed changes to archaeological sites that corresponded with major museum acquisitions. Teams could literally watch sites being looted in satellite footage, then trace specific artifacts from those excavations to museum collections worldwide. The discovery that real Egyptian artifacts remained hidden while museums displayed fakes had profound implications for our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization. Archaeologists realized that decades of scholarship had been based on incomplete or incorrect information from artifacts torn from their proper context. The authentic artifacts found in legitimate excavations revealed technological capabilities that had been completely unknown. A golden burial mask discovered near Saqqara showed evidence of advanced metallurgy techniques that historians thought weren't developed until centuries later. The mask contained microscopic goldworking details that required tools and knowledge not previously documented in ancient Egypt. Hieroglyphic text found on authentic artifacts contradicted established timelines of Egyptian religious development. Newly discovered inscriptions describe spiritual practices and beliefs that didn't match the narrative constructed from museum pieces. These texts suggested that Egyptian religious evolution was far more complex and advanced than previously understood. Astronomical calculations found in tomb decorations revealed that ancient Egyptians had mathematical and scientific knowledge that surpassed previous estimates. The authentic artifacts showed evidence of precise calendar systems, complex engineering calculations, and astronomical observations that indicated a level of scientific sophistication that had been completely underestimated. Chemical analysis of authentic mummification materials revealed preservation techniques that were far more advanced than the methods described in historical texts. Egyptian embalmers had developed chemical processes that modern science is only beginning to understand. This knowledge had been lost because the artifacts containing this information had been stolen before they could be properly studied. Trade goods found in authentic burial contexts showed that ancient Egypt had commercial relationships extending much farther than previously known. Artifacts made from materials that could only come from Central Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and even possible transoceanic sources suggested that Egyptian civilization was part of a global trading network that historians had never documented. The most shocking discoveries involved evidence of advanced engineering and construction techniques. Artifacts found in their proper archaeological context reveal construction methods for the pyramids and other monuments that involve principles of physics and engineering that weren't supposed to be understood for thousands of years. The revelation that authentic Egyptian artifacts had remained hidden while museums displayed fakes forced a complete reevaluation of ancient Egyptian civilization. Every major archaeological interpretation, based on decontextualized museum pieces, had to be reconsidered in light of evidence from properly excavated artifacts. The timeline of Egyptian technological development required major revision. Authentic artifacts showed that advanced metallurgy, precision engineering, and sophisticated chemical knowledge developed much earlier than previously thought. The stolen artifacts that had shaped historical understanding represented only a fraction of Egyptian capabilities. Religious and spiritual practices revealed through authentic artifacts were far more complex than the simplified narrative constructed from museum pieces. Newly discovered texts described multiple levels of afterlife beliefs, advanced understanding of consciousness and death, and spiritual practices that influenced later civilizations in ways that had never been recognized. The social structure of ancient Egypt proved to be more sophisticated than historical models suggested. Authentic burial goods revealed complex class systems, professional specializations, and social mobility that contradicted the rigid hierarchical model based on incomplete archaeological evidence. Egyptian society was more dynamic and advanced than historians had realized. International relationships and cultural exchange were far more extensive than previously documented. Authentic artifacts revealed that Egypt was the center of a complex network of civilizations that shared knowledge, technology, and cultural practices across vast distances. This international cooperation contributed to technological advances that seemed impossible for the time period. The construction of major monuments involved engineering principles and construction techniques that were completely unknown to modern archaeology. Authentic artifacts contain detailed technical information about pyramid construction, temple engineering, and monument preservation that revealed capabilities far beyond previous estimates. Most importantly, the discovery proved that archaeological context is essential for understanding ancient civilizations. Artifacts removed from their burial sites lose crucial information about how they were used, their relationship to other objects, and their role in ancient society. The theft and forgery operation hadn't just stolen objects, it had stolen knowledge that could never be recovered. The authentic artifacts remaining in Egypt provided the key to understanding one of humanity's greatest civilizations. These discoveries revealed that ancient Egypt was far more advanced, complex, and influential than anyone had imagined. The real treasures weren't the golden objects that thieves had stolen. They were the knowledge and understanding that could only come from studying artifacts in their proper archaeological context. The Louvre heist investigation exposed more than just art theft. It revealed that our understanding of ancient civilizations had been systematically corrupted by decades of archaeological looting and museum fraud. The authentic artifacts hidden in Egyptian tombs held the key to rewriting history and understanding the true capabilities of one of humanity's most remarkable civilizations. Egyptian archaeologists continue making discoveries that reshape our understanding of the past. Each authentic artifact found in proper context adds another piece to the puzzle of ancient Egyptian achievement. The real treasures aren't sitting in museum display cases. They're buried in the Egyptian desert, waiting to reveal the true story of human civilization. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.